Welcome back. This is Retirement News Online. So living in retirement means something different to everybody. Some choose to stop working completely, travel, and then live the life that they've always dreamed about, while others may choose to stay active and continue working either part-time or volunteering. The important question is, what does it mean to you? Now here's somebody that knows a lot about retirement and retirement planning, though he'll never retire. My guest is Tim Tremblay with Tremblay Financial Services in the beautiful town of Santa Barbara, California. How's the weather there these days?
You know, it's sunny and 70.
It's like room temperature there all the time, right?
Yeah, that's right. You're right.
So once somebody gets into retirement, how do you help them manage it so that they can achieve the goals that they've dreamed about? And a lot of the times too, I think people have this sort of one-dimensional view of what retirement's going to be, and when they get there it's like, well, there's a lot of other things going on. Or how do you help them with that?
You know, it's interesting. A very good question. We've developed this Triad Asset Allocation that I refer to, and it works very well to go from growth to income. And when it does go from growth to income, we don't have to turn the whole thing on to income. We see what the needs are and set it up according to the client's needs. And we have to do that by developing a budget for retirement and really planning this thing out. Now, I've had situations where a client came in and said, I just want income, I'm done, turn it on. So we set the whole thing up with a triad for income. And every one of his assets in that 3-asset class allocation, we're sending cash into his checking account every month right off the bat. Well, then he got a job as a consultant. He didn't need income. So with this approach that we have at Tremblay Financial, it's very easy to go from growth back to income or income to growth. So we turned off the income. We went to growth allocation in the stock market portion, and the dividends from the alternative investments were dollar cost averaging. We cut off the income from the fixed index, and the portfolio began to grow because he didn't need the income. So to answer your question, it depends. And even when you set up a plan, it could change. So you have to have flexibility with any financial plan for retirement.
Would you say that when you meet a new client or prospect, that a lot of them think they're planning, right? They have a lot of statements, they have a lot of accounts, they may be working with a broker in some way, but they're kind of really hoping. They're not really retirement planning because they've got all the stuff, but they really don't have it together and working together. Is that pretty correct?
You know, that is absolutely correct. We see that all the time. As they come in and we really put together this budget for retirement that we refer to, it's an eye-opening meeting for these clients as they understand that there's so many things that they need to consider. They also need to consider for the unexpected, and that's got to be a part of that plan because the unexpected is almost guaranteed to happen. And so it's ongoing. It's not something where you come in and take care of your plan and you're done. That's just the beginning, and it has to be monitored, and you have to make sure that you're following your goals and objectives with the assets that you have so that you'll have income for the rest of your life.
The income for the rest of your life, that's sort of not negotiable,
yes,
right? We have to make sure that we have that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the current environment. So we have people 20, 30, 40 years in retirement where that's a long time. If they've invested correctly and they're working with somebody like you, hopefully there's a good shot that they're going to have something left over at the end of that time for their family. But give me an idea of how you balance growth and protection, because usually from a financial advisor perspective, they're mutually exclusive. If we need growth, we have to add risk. If we need protection, we have to de-risk. How do you do both?
Well, you can do both now. Again, with different asset classes, they're treated differently. You can have safe money in a fixed index, and you can have that fixed index grow. If you're not using the income, you're allowing it to grow. We've seen fixed index over a 10, 12-year period double in value. That's pretty good growth for a safe investment, okay? You need to have the alternatives dollar cost averaging into the market during the growth period. And that's one of the best ways for the best cost basis with a stock market portfolios to dollar cost average. When the market's down, you get more for your money. Mm-hmm. When it's up, you don't buy as many shares. So over time, it's going to give you the best return. So it's important to have that growth moving forward with the safety. The fixed index is safe, The alternatives are not traded in the market, but also have it in a position that it's flexible to move from growth to income. And when you do that, know exactly what it is that you need for your income for retirement. Have that budget in place so that you know that you're not going to have to worry.
And so this hybrid indexing strategy is something that right now in the current environment with high interest rates, it's kind of counterintuitive. I think you could agree that this is an alternative asset class in many ways. So, but right now, the fact that interest rates are high, which make it difficult to refinance a home or buy anything or finance anything, buy a home. It's actually good for these types of strategies. Explain how that works.
Well, when you have a higher interest rate, you're going to be able to do more with the fixed index. It gives them more to work with. Okay, and it's interesting you're calling these high interest rate markets. When I got in the business in 1983, the 30-year Treasury was paying 19.1%. Mortgages for a home were 17%. So where they are now, high compared to where it's been in the past 15 years, but really it's kind of in that range that you want to see interest rates. And moving forward, we know this. There are a few things that we can guarantee, Scott. We can guarantee that the market's going to change, and we can guarantee that interest rates are going to change. Which direction, we don't know. That's going to be uncertain no matter how you look at it. So have that portfolio invested in a way that is not going to affect your goals, your plans for your future.
Last question. What do you think is the most common misconception you see from consumers when it comes to talking about retirement and planning?
You know, there's so many misconceptions, right? Yeah. I think one of the big problems that folks have today is that Social Security is such a question mark. And in many ways it is, but I think as you look at Social Security, the government has an obligation to take care of Social Security. I think it'll be there. It's not gone like so many people think. In 2033, you won't have it. Folks put into Social Security to plan for their future, so we're going to have it in some way or fashion. And it might be means tested. You know, if you don't need it, you're not going to get it, that kind of thing. But it's going to be there. So you still need to plan that as a part of your financial plan moving forward.
And there's some solutions actually that can kind of fill that gap in the event that you are, affected, because I guess if you didn't receive a stimulus check, the government already has means tested you, so they probably are looking at you if and when this happens. Well, I appreciate your time. It sounds like, and the way things are looking right now, a real common distribution method is the 4% rule, right? The way things are today, I don't think, unless you have $2 or $3 million in assets, you're still going to be using Social Security at some level, because 4% rule on $2 million is 80 grand, and you probably made more than that when you were working.
Right.
It sounds like your job isn't just to maintain lifestyle in retirement, you sort of elevate it, right?
Exactly. We want to put you in a better position for retirement than what you're currently at working. And so how do you do that? You have to plan. And you start planning well before you retire. And you begin that budget 20 years before you see that retirement date. And so those are the things that I think folks really need to embrace. Look at that plan as something that's as important as anything else you're doing financially, planning for that retirement.
And if you're thinking about planning for retirement and you're in the Santa Barbara area or any area around that area, you should probably talk to this man. He's Tim Tremblay with Tremblay Financial Services in Santa Barbara. Thanks for watching Retirement News Online.